So, what happens when a trip to space that's supposed to last just 8 days turns into an 8-month-long ordeal? I mean, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We've got two NASA astronauts stuck in a really high stakes waiting game, hundreds of miles above our heads. All right, let's just jump right into it. Think about this for a second. Imagine you pack for, say, a week-long trip, right? And then you find out you're not coming home for nearly a year. That's the situation here. The plan was 8 days. The new reality? 8 months. That is a massive, totally unexpected shift. So how on earth did this happen? Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at the astronauts, their ship, and the whole chain of events that left them stuck up there. And this isn't just a story about hardware and tech problems. It's a really human story. We're talking about two veteran astronauts, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore. They were just supposed to be on a straightforward test flight. But now they're facing this incredible uncertainty, having to fall back on every bit of their training to handle a mission that has gone completely sideways. Okay, so to really get what went wrong, we need to understand what this flight was all about in the first place. This wasn't just another trip to the station. It was a huge, ambitious test that had been in the works for years. Yeah, this was all part of a big NASA initiative called the Commercial Crew Program. Basically, it was a major change in strategy. NASA decided to team up with private companies like Boeing and SpaceX to build and fly what are essentially space taxis to the International Space Station. The whole idea was to spark some competition and get new ideas flowing. And that competition really boiled down to two big names. In one corner, you had Boeing, the aerospace giant, right? The reliable, safe bet with decades of history working with NASA. And in the other corner, you had SpaceX. They were the scrappy newcomer, the disruptor. A lot of people saw them as a total wild card back then. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at where NASA put its money. They gave Boeing a contract worth $4.2 billion. That's way more than the $2.6 billion that went to SpaceX. So you can see NASA was really banking on Boeing and their long track record. And well, that decision makes everything that's happening now even more incredible. But here's the thing. The problems that left these astronauts stranded, they didn't just pop up out of the blue. Nope. The Starliner spacecraft has had a whole history of red flags, pretty much from the get-go. Just take a look at this timeline. The contract was handed out way back in 2014. Fast forward to 2019, and an unmanned test flight fails because of software bugs. Then in 2022, another test has problems with its thrusters. I mean, talk about foreshadowing, right? This whole history really paints a picture of a program that was having a tough time, to say the least. And all of that, it brings us right to the crisis we're seeing now. On this very first mission with a crew, all those past problems blew up into critical, system-wide failures that put the astronauts' safety at risk. Okay, so first up, helium leaks. Now, you need helium to keep the propulsion system pressurized. It's super important. They found one leak before they even launched. But then, after they got into orbit, they found 4 more. So that's a total of 5 separate leaks in one of the most critical systems on the spacecraft. And it didn't stop there. Next up were the thrusters. You absolutely need these to steer the capsule, especially when you're trying to dock with the space station. Well, as they were approaching the ISS, 5 out of 28 of them just failed. That's almost a 20% failure rate on a system you have to get home safely. Just, wow. So the key takeaway here is that it wasn't just one single problem. You had 2 different, totally critical systems failing at the same time. The propulsion system was leaking and the steering system was malfunctioning. It put everyone in this terrible position of asking, can this ship even get its crew home in one piece? As you can imagine, this led to a really tense situation back on Earth between NASA and Boeing. And it all built up to a conclusion that is just almost unbelievable, and for Boeing has to be incredibly embarrassing: a rescue mission by SpaceX. So publicly, Boeing was putting on a brave face. On August 7th, they put out a statement saying they still believed in their spacecraft, that it was capable and ready to fly home. Total confidence. But NASA, well, their response was a lot more cautious. Ken Bowersax, one of the heads at NASA, basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Thanks for your input, but what our team decides is what's going to happen." It was a very polite but very firm way of showing that behind closed doors, they were not on the same page at all. And then the final call was made. After weeks of going over all the data, NASA's team came to a unanimous decision. There were just too many unknowns. The Starliner was not safe for the astronauts to fly back in, period. So what's the solution? Well, in what has to be one of the biggest plot twists in modern spaceflight, NASA is going to send a SpaceX Dragon capsule to go get them. That's right. The company that was once the wild card is now rescuing the crew from the Boeing Starliner. The Starliner itself, it's going to fly home empty. Which brings us right back to Suni and Butch up there on the station. A rescue is coming, but it's not going to get there until early 2025. So for now, they have to settle in and survive a very, very long wait. And that just begs the question, right? How do you even prepare for an unplanned 8-month stay in orbit? It's an incredible test of human endurance. But the good news is, if anyone can handle it, it's these astronauts. They train their entire careers for extreme, off-the-wall scenarios just like this one. Their survival really comes down to a super disciplined routine. We're talking about 2.5 hours of intense exercise every single day, a super strict diet. They have to keep up with their daily work schedules, and maybe most importantly, they have to find ways to stay connected with their families back on Earth. And make no mistake, this isn't just about fighting off boredom. Spending that long in zero-G is absolutely brutal on your body. Without that intense daily routine, you're looking at serious muscle decay. Your bones lose density, and your whole cardiovascular system starts to change in dangerous ways. That routine isn't just a schedule, it's literally their lifeline. So if we take a step back and look at the big picture, this one failed mission is really just a symptom of a much bigger issue. The whole Starliner program is, get this, 7 years late and about $1.5 billion over budget. Those are just staggering numbers. And all of this really leads to the biggest question of all, one that's facing the entire company. Boeing has had a really tough year with all sorts of concerns across their different divisions. So this isn't just a technical problem with one spacecraft. When you have a project that's this late, this far over budget, with failures this public, you have to ask, can Boeing ever win back our trust?